Hello. In this video lecture, we're going to talk about the Ansoff matrix. This is for research project number 5 and marketing 822 Garden Web DBA cohort. This is Max Davis. So to start off with, the Ansoff matrix was developed by Russian American Dr. Igor Ansoff in 1958. At the time, he was director of diversification for Lockheed Aircraft Corporation. He had developed a planning tool as part of his projects there at Lockheed, and it was a planning tool to determine product or market growth and ways that the company could look to expand in either one of those facets. So developing this, it became a framework or a matrix of a product market strategy and laid out into a 4-grid matrix of product market expansion and the different tools and the ways that you would do that. So to start off with, the model in these 4 categories, you start with market penetration, market development, product development, or diversification. So I drew a very simple little diagram to sort of lay these out. So along this axis, along your product axis, you move from existing products to new products, and along the market axis, from existing markets to new markets. And so as you can see with the layout, any combination of these will land you in one of these different categories. And we're going to talk about each of those categories as we move through. But just real quickly, again, market penetration is looking at using existing product and existing market. Market development is using existing products in a new market. Product development is using new products in an existing market. And then diversification is using both new market and new products to enter that new market. During my research, I was lucky enough and I found the original paper that Dr. Ansoff had written, and within that found his original drawing. This was a sketch within the paper where he laid out the grid in sort of the 4 quadrants. And I noticed that in his drawing, he had diversification as a much bigger segment, which makes some sense. You know, at the time he was director of diversification at a large corporation, so that was really the tactic he was taking of how to grow the company. So if we look at the first one, market penetration, the company is attempting to grow with existing products into an existing market. This may be an established company that you would almost consider this to be what we call organic growth, just natural growth within their existing products, existing segment, nothing really new going on here. It's probably the simplest of the 4 strategies. It can be done through a couple of different tactics using price competition, where they enter into the market with a lower price to their competitors. It could be done through promotion strategies, like we've been talking about in our drink strategies, of different ways to promote their product, or different distribution methods to get to that consumer market. Could also be done through merger and acquisition. If they're looking at going into an existing market with an existing product, simply merging or acquiring another company that's already in that segment with that product. And finally, small product changes. While it's not a new product, just some different feature or capability or any kind of adaptation, something that would differentiate that product just slightly while it's still the same product. So as we move through, let's go to market development. This is where you start to see the different change tactics. So this would be expanding into a new market, either an area or a country, with the existing products. So you may look at different consumer segments, like we've done in our drink products that we've developed. We've designed a particular segment, a particular age group, and a particular demographic. What if you wanted to expand your growth and you've saturated that market? So now you look at a different segment, a different age bracket, maybe a different demographic. It can also be a new geographic area. You could expand into a territory or a region of the country where you haven't been selling or producing your item before. you could shift into foreign markets. An example of this would be like McDonald's. Once they had saturated pretty much the U.S. market, and they're pretty much in every different city in every state, they have expanded out globally. So that's an expansion tactic or growth tactic that is market development. And one that I found interesting too was the B2B buyers. So a company that produces a good that's sold directly to consumers may shift to selling it to other businesses, or vice versa. If you have a product that is sold and marketed to other businesses, maybe you start selling it directly to the end consumers. A company here in Charlotte several years ago, Duke Energy, had a division, DukeNet. DukeNet was a telecommunications company. They only sold to other businesses and sold fiber optic networks only to them as an alternative access. They saw the potential in the market as a way to grow and develop was selling directly to the end consumers. So they diversified and used market development to expand to direct consumers. So this segment of development can also be done for cases where there's new technology. You have an economy of scale where you can enter into another area or another country, and you're expanding into a similar market to the ones that you're currently producing in and ones that are profitable. And the third segment is product development. This one's more capital intensive and requires the development of a new product that you're going to introduce into your existing market. This would require the use of R&D, research and development of the new products. It may be done through merger and acquisition of a competitor's product or a smaller company. Cisco and Microsoft are two very good examples of this. Cisco continues to grow and continues to launch new products. A lot of those are them buying smaller companies. Not too long ago, they bought Meraki as a producer of Wi-Fi access points and a Wi-Fi technology. It's now branded Cisco. They bought the company completely, and it's now a Cisco product. So Cisco has technically developed a product, but it was through an M&A. Microsoft's history is notorious for that. If you develop a software that is attractive and fits a niche for growth, Microsoft may come along and buy that. They're known for doing that. Private labeling. If you wanted to expand and develop a new product, but maybe there was a smaller company that had already done the development, you private label that new product as yours with your branding expertise. There's also joint R&D to leverage existing distribution and branding. Toyota and General Motors have done this in developing or co-developing automobiles that were in a particular niche. Each one was branded either a Toyota or General Motors, but it was the identical car produced on the same assembly line, just with a different badge. So it could be sold and marketed as its own product, but they split the R&D cost and shared between the companies. A lot of automotive manufacturers still do this today. And finally, the last one is diversification. Stands apart from the other three, and it's sort of the combination of all of the other three. And this is growth with new products into new markets, so a totally new territory. This is the high risk, high reward area. The risk being that you have to have new skills, new techniques, new technology. The company's entering into an area that they may not know well, and their forecasts and projections could be incorrect. So they're taking a risk on a new product and a new market. And there's two possible methods for this related to diversification, which you can see in as an example of like food production companies that may diversify and add new product lines and new markets for their products, but they're still food products. Or unrelated diversification, which is referred to often as a conglomerate. The companies like General Electric and Lockheed Martin which those came to mind as I was reading about this, and come to find out, Dr. Ansoff had actually consulted for General Electric, and they're kind of the poster child of a conglomerate today because they produce aircraft engines, light bulbs, financial services, media conglomerates. At one time, they owned large portions of NBC. So they're very diversified, very much a conglomerate and unrelated type businesses. So they grew through this acquisition. Um, and Lockheed Martin as well, which he worked for when he was developing this idea. And it can lead to massive organizational change of the company. Companies like GE and Lockheed Martin continue to use this method, and once they have grown some of these, they often will sell those off as a separate business. And lastly, a quote from Dr. Ansoff from his paper, Strategic Diversification. In most actual situations, a business will simultaneously follow several of these paths. As a matter of fact, a simultaneous pursuit of market penetration, product development, and market development is usually recognized as a sign of a progressive, well-run business. Pursuit of all three of these strategies is essential to survival in the face of economic competition. And I think that kind of summarized, the strength of this is that ideally a company would want to move into that fourth quadrant to remain competitive and strong in the 21st century. So hope this helps to explain, and enjoyed giving you this lecture. Thanks.